So now we are broadcasting live to the world. I'm sure the world is watching too, but we're give it a try anyway. So today we are going to dive into some different Google apps. Jennifer said she's a blank slate, so she would like to kind of just get an idea what they all do, and it sounded like to some degree maybe as far as a blank slate with the Google apps as well, Keith.
That sounds, yes, exactly.
That works. Okay. So let's just dive into it a little bit. I want to kind of show you some of the different options there are, because we are Google Apps for at Google Apps School, so we own the Google Apps for EDU kind of suite. It's pretty much the same as external, just using a regular Gmail. However, there are some differences. So one, we get a lot more space. You in the storage areas basically have unlimited space. They call it unlimited. I don't know what that means, but there's a bunch. I think mine shows like 10 terabytes or something.
Wow.
So I think they basically just want all our data so they can mine it later. But so let's kind of dive right into it. So if you go to any Google page, just google.com, and sign in using your .edu account, across the top you're going to have your navigation type bar. So mine says plus David. It's yours may just say plus you, or it might say plus Keith or plus Jennifer, depending if you've kind of set it up already. If you've been in there once before, it should have your name. If not, it might say plus you on it. And then you have mail, images, but this little Rubik's Cube icon here, you click on that, it gets the rest of my apps. So Google has a ton of stuff. They have a plethora of different options, including YouTube. Actually, it's owned by Google. A lot of people don't know that. So the first one I want to dive into, I know you sound like you want to look at Google Docs, and I don't know if Jennifer has any particulars she wants to look at. It sounds like just a little bit of everything, but I want to really cover Drive, which is Google Docs. Drive is kind of the mothership to Google Docs, so it's maybe equivalent to the old Dropbox tool. Not old, but it's still out there. I just don't use it anymore. Just basically cloud storage. So you can store anything in Google Drive, pretty much. If it's digital, it'll store there.
And David, is this something that is only used by, or it's controlled by the faculty member, or if you have a class, do you set up individual drives for the class? My son is in high school, and I've seen him, excuse me, use at home Google Drive. So I don't know if you connect this to specific classes, or is this just mine personally that I use?
This is yours personally. However, you can share things. Like we'll get into that, but this is your
Okay.
personal drive. So how it's shared can be opened up to classes and stuff. You can share a folder with a class, or different
Okay.
things, different files with a class or with an individual, that kind of thing. But the drive is basically it's your drive.
Okay.
So this is your storage. And a lot of the K through 12 schools, I think they're also using Google Apps. I think my kids are too, actually, and they can tie a lot of them are using Drive to pass assignments back and forth and do different things. So yeah, you can certainly do that. So that's kind of what Drive is. Again, it'll store anything digital, MP3s, movies, any kind of file. So the Google Docs, which is kind of underneath that, your Google Docs think of that as a online suite, kind of like Microsoft Office. So Docs is your equivalent to Office. Sheets is your equivalent to Excel. Slides is basically PowerPoint. So that's the three basics. Although there's more, there's other options that we'll look at as well. But those are the three kind of the basic ones, the basic suite. If I click more down here underneath this, I'll get to some other options. A lot of these, frankly, I don't use a lot. For like groups, there's some things you can do with groups. I haven't got real deep into them. I haven't found a good reason to yet. A lot of people use Google Maps, but some of these also, actually most of their stuff have, you have the option of putting it on a smartphone or iPad as well. Google Maps is great on your iPhone if you do any traveling. It's a great GPS. It beats paying for GPS.
And David, a quick question: the
Yeah,
groups, is that the same thing as the Hangout we're in right now, or is that something different?
it's totally different.
Okay.
So the Hangout we're in right now is kind of part of Google Plus. So Google
Okay.
Plus is this plus David up here on top.
Mm-hmm.
So let's just dive into that for just a second. Again, Google Plus isn't necessarily has taken off like I thought it might. It's maybe has some equivalents to say Facebook, but it has a lot of different options. But Google Plus is kind of a social media feed. So I'm logged in. Here's me. on anybody I'm following, I'll see what they're doing down here. So if they've shared with me or shared publicly, then I'll see that down here. But what I use Google Plus for really is just to get to our Hangouts. So if I mouse over home up here, I get some other options with Google Plus. You could do a lot of stuff with Google Plus in your class. You could possibly do some sharing and different things in education with Google Plus. We won't get really deep into that today, but there are some options for using that, I think, in a classroom setting, just because, especially because here at University of West Georgia, every student has a Google account because our .edu accounts are Google accounts. So they already have an account. They don't have to log in with something else. So there's some options. Notice this thing popping up over here. Anytime that Google changes something, they'll give you these little tutorials, kind of. So like they've just introduced this, which I'm not even familiar with yet. It's collections. So share letting groups post in topics that you care about. So I haven't played with that yet, but that's something they've just added, looks like. So I'll tell them, okay. But so to get the Hangout we're in right now, I went down here and clicked on Hangouts. So we'll talk briefly about Hangouts. Hangouts have, there's two main different types of Hangouts. One is just a basic Hangout, not broadcast, not on air. It's not, it's more of maybe a family type thing. Of course, you can use that in the classroom as well. A lot of people use a regular Hangout, say in their, just in an online class for office hours. So it works pretty smooth for that, and I can show you how to set that up. So that's one method. If you want to do something like we're doing, where you want it archived and you want to be able to basically let anybody watch, that's using the Hangouts on air. So again, we're in this Hangout piece now. I have Hangout on air or video Hangouts. A video Hangout is just your regular Hangout. If I scroll down here just a little bit past their kind of advertisements telling us what it's all about, I could say start Hangout on air. So what this is really going to do is going to let me create an event where I could have a Hangout. So that's one of the other options up underneath that home was events. So when I first create this, the way I did this one that we're in, I created it public. So notice it says audience. So it just means the audience can be whoever you want, or I can actually limit the audience only to my class or only to me, and then share a direct link to people I want to join this. So again, when I made mine, I just made it just public and left it alone, so that anybody could find it, and that didn't really matter. And I shared the link via that email that I sent y'all, so it's easier to get to for people. And then I also said later. I set this up earlier, so I selected later, and I set up a time for it. And once I set up the time, I just went ahead and saved it. I said, oh, I can click share, but it saves it. And then once that's created, if I scroll down here, actually, then I have to go to my events, sorry. And it'll show probably the one we're in. Oh, these are past events because we're in the one right now. But so this is an older event. This shows all the different ones that we've had. Looks one I was just playing with, so that's why it says delete. But if it's an upcoming event, you'll see a little bit more information. Then you can just go to that event, and I can either watch this was one that was already passed, but because I started this was created by me, I could actually click start and turn this on, open it up, so that people could join it. If that makes sense. Did I lose you with any of that?
No, no. I'm always wondering how you get those links. And so once you create it and it saves it, then you click into the room and then just copy and paste the link at the top.
There's two ways to do it. The one we're doing, because we're archiving it, because it's a broadcast, it's on air, it's a little bit trickier because initially I create an event, and then I come in, and when I do to send out the links via email, I actually come in and click start, so it opens my window for my Hangout, and then I just actually grab the URL from the top of that, because that URL will stay the same. So I just copy that link and I'll email it out and saying at this time we will be having an event. Because I'm being particular on who I'm inviting these things to. I don't want the world to join us. I mean, I don't care if everybody watches.
Right, makes sense. Can I ask just one other question in terms of Google Hangout versus Blackboard Collaborate?
Yep.
Particularly for the classroom, is it encouraged that we use Collaborate instead, since that's kind of embedded within the course din, or do you actually prefer the Google Hangout, or what's from starting?
That's actually, I don't think either one is encouraged over the other, depending what you're using it for. So there's some differences. So first, I can only have up to 15 people join live and actually have a conversation in Hangout. So I have a limited number of active users in my Hangout. However, I can do pretty much all the same things I could do in Collaborate. I can share my screen as I'm doing here. I could actually take over your screen if you let me. There's a bunch of different things that you can do in a Hangout, and some of those I can't actually do in Collaborate.
Okay.
And as far as the technical kind of overhead, Hangouts are actually a little bit easier. They don't seem to have as much problems for a student getting into them, especially if you create it initially correct and send out the right link. They can join it easier. They don't have to go through all the other kind of headache. So there's some pluses to it. However, if I'm trying to broadcast to all my class and it's bigger than 15 people and I want them all to be active in the conversation, I kind of have to use Collaborate. Collaborate also is pretty much by default. It's built in that you can archive it every session. So it just depends on your use, really.
Okay, I'm thinking for office hours. I've normally just done Collaborate, and I'm wondering if this is easier for them to use the Google Hangout for the office hours instead.
My personal belief is yes. I would use this for office hours, not Collaborate.
Okay,
For me
thank you.
doing it, I would use Hangout because I like it better. And I'll show you another way to do that as well. There's another way to get a link for that, unless you want to record office hours, which I wouldn't imagine why you'd want to do that. You'd use a regular Hangout. So we'll talk about that in just a minute.
Okay, thanks.
Yep, no worries. It's like someone joined us, but then they ran away, so that's okay. Amy popped in. Create a new event for every office hours. No, you do not need to, Jennifer. Let's go ahead and talk about that because there's some better ways to do that. You don't need to do that. The only reason you'd have to create a new event for office hours or for some kind of event is if you wanted them archived. If you plan on archive everything, then you need an event for every archived Hangout. But if you just want to create a Hangout area, you can create that room and use the same room over and over again. And I'll show you how to do that. But does that answer that question, Jennifer?
And out of curiosity, if we're not on, then could students themselves go into that area and talk amongst themselves if we weren't there, if it's an open event?
Yes, they could.
Okay.
Yeah, they sure could. You don't have to be there to open the room. If you create the room and you give them a link, they could hop in and use it. So you can actually use that to your benefit. You could create a room for your groups and give them their own room, or of course they can do this themselves. But you could create a room that they could pop in and just use and add that link right to your course.
Right.
So
Thanks.
you can certainly do that. Yep. At the beginning of the semester would be easier. Yeah, you can certainly do that, and you don't have to send out the link either, Jen. So let me show you that. So that's the Hangout, the Google Plus part of this. Again, there's some other things you could probably do with this. It seems like a lot of people don't use the Google Plus very extensively, mostly just for Hangouts, Hangouts and events, but they're kind of tied together to a big degree. So let's pop over. Actually, what I want to look at now is the calendar, because believe it or not, this is the best way to create a weekly type. I cannot talk today. Create your other link for your office hours. So if I click on that, I can get to my calendar from here. A little Rubik's Cube icon there. So this is my today's schedule. So what I want to do now is create a calendar event that I can then use as an online office hours. So what I would normally tell people is actually just create an event at the end of the semester. I don't frankly think it matters. You could probably create your event anytime because I believe they've made these a permanent link if you do this, but I just do it just because it makes me feel good inside. So if I just click month up here on top, I'll bounce to the end of something. So I'll just create one, say, in July. We'll pretend like that's the last of the semester. So I'm going to click, say, on some Saturday. Because frankly, this event, the time doesn't matter. All I'm using it for is to get a link. So I'm going to click there. I'm going to click Edit Event. Instead of just say, give it a name and create it, I'm going to click Edit Event. So once I'm inside of this event, now I can just say Office Hours. And right down here, I'm going to click Add Video Call. So once I click Add Video Call, I have this new link here that says join meeting Deloitte. So it actually gives me a perma room, if you will. This is my online presence. So if I just right click on this, I can grab the link from here. So I can just say copy link address. Now this link I can add throughout my course or put in a news item in my course and create that office hours environment. And it's the same link every time. So does that make sense?
I think that's going to be much more helpful than Blackboard Collaborate is, and not having to go through the whole Java process and so forth. If we can just jump into this.
Oh, I think it's much, much easier. So let me pop into one. I think I have a office hours on one of my sandboxes here. Yeah, so this is, I've created one with both areas just for good times. So one method of doing that is just do it in a news item. You could certainly put that link throughout in every module if you wanted to. So it's the same link. You could just use it wherever you kind of made you happy.
Right.
Yeah, if you just click on this, they come right into your office environment. Obviously, you're going to want to put something here saying, I'm using Google Plus or Google Hangouts. Be sure and log into your .edu account, because the only caveat, if you will, if there is one, is they do need to be logged into Google. And if you're doing it from here with your calendar, they really need to be logged into their .edu Google. They may have two different Google accounts, like a regular Gmail account. So I'd put some kind of a text blurb there saying, before joining the Hangout, make sure you're logged into Google using your .edu account.
Good point.
So that'll save you some time. But yeah, I think this is much easier, in my opinion, than trying to use the Collaborate. I mean, you can do both of them. You can use either one as far as inside of Course 10. But for this purpose, I like Hangouts better.
Okay, thanks.
Yep. You got any other questions with that, Jennifer? I'll give her a minute. Test her typing speed. She's like, put me on the spot, man.
Jennifer, we have to have the department get you a microphone. I'm going to work with Jen on that
I
one.
think she needs a new computer, it sounds like. She said she has a 9-year-old computer. The screen's black and white, I think. There's no color.
Can it match my monochrome Apple from the 1990s, the 9-inch monitor?
Nice. Come with a printer that uses
The dot matrix,
yeah, dot matrix. It's prints in graphite. But anyway, so that's that part of that. So I think you can do a lot with the Hangouts. So let me ask more questions later. Nice. Very good. That's good, Jennifer. I'm glad you'll be getting upgraded eventually. The other piece of this is if you have smartphones, Hangouts work on them as well. So iPad, iPhone, Droid, kind of whatever, you can actually install an app for Hangouts that you can join these as well. So the only difference is from if you create the as an instructor, if you join up from your iPad, you can't do as many things. For instance, you can't. There's no screen to sharing or that kind of stuff. It doesn't allow you to do those things. But if you're just joining as a student or joining to watch the Hangout, it works pretty well that way. So again, depending on what you're doing with it.
My phone still is a slide phone that has bumps for typing text, so that kind of shows you where I am at this whole
you may not be able to use your phone. Yeah, you'll have to actually hang out.
Yeah.
You don't get the digital hangout.
My students are going to school me.
Yeah, probably. Oh, you have a good Mac. Nice. Yep. So let's look a little bit more just the Hangout itself. So the one we're in right now. So it's tricky to show people how to use Hangouts while you're in a Hangout, but we're going to give it a whirl. So if you put your mouse over this Hangout that we're in, so you'll see some slide out from the left that has some different little icons. One is how you access the chat. Just below that is the screen share, which is what I'm using to share my screen with you. The screen share works pretty well. Depending what you're sharing, sometimes you actually have to share your entire screen. If you're trying to share a PowerPoint or something, if you don't share your entire screen, it actually doesn't advance for them. So just be sure that if you do a screen share, check in with your participants, make sure that they're seeing what you're saying, that it's actually following along.
Mhm.
I think they've repaired and fixed some of those little that was just a glitch they had previously. I think they've actually fixed it, but just a heads up on that. And again, there's a whole bunch of other options down here. The whole showcase, I haven't used that a lot, but you can set up these things that are supposed to be showcases. Again, I
What
haven't
does
played
that
around.
mean, showcase?
I haven't used it much. This was
Okay.
something added not long ago, but my understanding is if you actually click it up on the other side, you can add websites
Hmm.
so that you can then use those as showcases. So then I can um, actually, if you click showcase, what do you get on the right hand side? It should pop up a little bar on the right hand side, and it
It
should have some
does.
different items. So probably our website and
Right. Okay.
so that kind of thing. I can add things to the showcase, and then I can actually say just click on the showcase. So then
Okay.
you can go ahead and go to that. What I really should do on that showcase is add our survey. That's a good call. I should do that. But that's what that's about.
Okay. And then can the students on the other end, can they add things on, saying, for instance, can you check out this website, Pockle, or something like that? Is it interactive to where they can have all these functions as well, or only the facilitator, you, control it?
That's a good question. Where you're sitting now, do you have an option above that says add an item from a website?
No, I do not.
Okay, then no, they don't. That answers that question. So,
Can you give them that access? I just didn't know how interactive this can be.
well, kind of, but I would just use chat for that.
Okay.
But yeah, I can't give them access to the showcase itself because that's really a one-way kind of street. But if you want them to share websites and different things, you could do it via the chat link and just click a link, send the links and different things, or they have access to also share their screen and do all those things. So yeah, you have the ability. The one difference in a broadcast like I'm doing, this Hangout on air and a regular Hangout, Hangout on
Mhm.
air, I actually have the ability. Again, if you mouse over the thing on the left-hand side, there's those little icons. One
Mhm.
of them is a control room. If I click on control room, I can actually mute or turn off or turn down or turn off your camera if I don't like your hair. you know so I have some deeper ability because it's my room, and this eventually is going to go on my YouTube channel, which means
Is it
it's I
because
have
I'm
more
wearing a
access.
T-shirt? Is that what's going on here? You're discriminating against the green T-shirts?
That's it. That's it. It's the green thing. Don't you ever get on TV?
Okay,
You're not
I'm
behind
out.
a green screen. There's a momentary pop in there. But see, I can actually turn you back on.
Oh, this is scary.
No, I don't think I can actually turn your screen on, but I
You
can turn
actually
it.
did, I
But
think.
did it? Does it actually turn it on? That's,
He's
oh yeah, it looks like it works. Yep. Yeah,
scary.
I can pop you in there. So if you're on a Hangout on air, you better make sure you come dressed to the meeting. Just FYI. But
That's
yeah,
hilarious. That's scary.
now that's not the same in a regular Hangout. You don't have that control normally. But because this is kind of my Hangout and I can broadcast it later, I have more access to it. But yeah, I can mute you if I don't like the way you sound, so I can't hear you.
Is this
So
like pardon the interruption from ESPN? Is this how this is working?
yeah, kind of. Um, and there's also some other settings. When I again off to the side, there's some other options with that I can uh, use to control my broadcast later. So there's another thing called Cameraman. If I click on that, it allows me to make some settings changed. One is if I hit, when people join, I can actually have it automatically mute their audio and video.
Mm,
So those kind of things. So I can control the my broadcast that I use later.
right.
So there's a few cool things there. The Q&A, I haven't used that a ton, but the question and answers you can actually set up before. You have to do this before you start, and then you can set up some different questions and answers that you can then turn on inside your Hangout, so people can do that. But it has to be set up before you start your broadcast.
Okay.
But that's something with that. The capture, you could actually take pictures of the group, but you'll actually, I'll try it. But what you should get is you'll get a little message saying this person wants to take a picture. So
Mm-hmm.
it should warn you. It doesn't just snap your photo. Um, and then I could take a picture if I wanted to. I won't take our picture today.
We appreciate it.
And then I also have a YouTube option. So the YouTube option is pretty cool. The one downside of using that in a Hang It on Air is it doesn't archive. Because it's on YouTube. I think it's kind of like copyright issues, so
Is
it
it just a
doesn't let
blank
me.
screen then? Is that what happens?
Yeah, it's just a blank screen. I don't leave it archived at all, just a blank screen. It's great for other things like a normal Hangout, not on air, or for your live participants. It's all good, but not in the archived piece.
Okay.
So once I click on that, it gives me a little thing and says welcome, and you have to tell it okay to use it. But the cool thing about this, let me turn off the Q&A actually. There we go. The cool thing about the YouTube piece is I can actually add videos. I can add a playlist, and then we'd watch them together. If I start the playlist, it'll start it for everybody. So you could share something even from your own YouTube. If you click add videos to playlist, if you know the URL to your own YouTube video, I could just put it in there. I'll use one that I find it's not too bad. Well, I really like RSA.
Did I just get
So that's
muted?
that's a little loud. It actually mutes you automatically.
Okay.
And I'll pause that. So as soon as the video starts, it mutes the room. And then to talk, you actually push a little push to talk underneath the video.
Ah.
So it's something that could be really useful in a room if you have something that you want to watch together and then have a conversation about it. So that's kind of what that does. But I kind of like it. And then
Do people normally use this, David? I'm sorry for interrupting. Do they normally use this in a? Most of these online classes are asynchronous. So do they schedule a time for the class to meet to watch like a video or something to discuss it for an open discussion?
a lot of the stuff in here probably isn't used very highly in an online class. If it's the reason like what we're doing here is archiving this. If I was going to had a fully online class and I want to do this, I'd either use it again for office hours, things that they can just arrange a time to come see you.
Okay.
Or if you had a group for your entire class, then I would always leave those as optional and archive them. Because I don't necessarily agree with we have to meet at 4 o'clock every Friday, because that's the whole point of the online class.
Right.
So, but yeah, I mean, you could have some optional meetings saying we will have 2 or 3 meetings throughout the week. If you can make them, great. If not, try to watch them later if you can, or just have some open question sessions that aren't necessary. That they don't have to be there, but they can be helpful for people that are struggling and they want to make time to come in.
Right.
So that's how I'd recommend using them. They probably use it for various things. I know some people actually do require their students to come in certain times, which I'm not really for. But I don't get to make that choice. So to turn off an app, if you have something open like I have YouTube, I'm just going to click the YouTube icon again, and it'll make it go away. The other thing to point out is just below these apps on the left-hand side, there's 3 dots. And if I mouse over those, I have a couple other options, but I can also add apps. So if I click add apps, there's a whole bunch of different options, and they keep adding more as time goes on. So there's Sound Nation. You can actually create music in here. There's some pretty cool stuff you can do with it. But anyway, so that's what that's all about. There's a bunch of other ones you can add if you want to. The Google effects. A lot of people like to use Google effects if you're talking to your grandkids or your kid or whatever. You can add hats and mustaches and make yourself probably not ideal for a .edu environment, but hey, whatever works for you.
Jennifer, you ask a good question, and David, maybe you can also expand on this. I know sometimes when I've done like the eCore online, the annual meetings that they have, sometimes there's background interference when people have speakers on and so forth. And Jennifer, you're saying that there's no way to have a 4-way conversation. Do you have to tell people to keep the volume off until or their mic off until they speak? I'm trying to figure out how to have multiple conversations without having that background feedback.
Yeah, with here, I should have went in the other room, frankly, too. I have a headset on, which helps a little bit. The one difference between this and, say, Collaborate, you have to click to talk, right? You can't just have a conversation. And here, one of the reasons they limit it to 15 is because that's not necessary. Even if you have 15 people, you can just talk. And normally, whoever's talking, your video goes to the front and center. It goes to the stage. So it's not required in here. You can certainly have more than 4 people. If you're trying to have some separate conversations, Hangout doesn't do that. So like Collaborate allows you to create breakout sessions. You can't do that kind of thing in a Hangout.
Mm-hmm.
But as far as just having 3 or 4 or 5 or 15 people talking, you can do that.
Okay.
It may, if you have a bunch of people in a room, it may be good to set some ground rules, kind of, to say, just mute your mics unless you want to talk, just so we can keep the background noise out of our room. But that's, again, if you have a lot of people in there and it seems like it's getting an issue with background noise.
Right.
But does that make sense?
Oh yeah, 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 definitely.
Does that answer kind of what you're asking, Jennifer? I know that wasn't necessarily a question, but I mean, I believe that this does work much better than Skype. I've used Skype some, and I know they've improved it. In the past, Skype was more of a one-to-one, I think, but I think they have made it so you can add more people. But I, I think this is better. I think the technology in Hangout works better than some of the other options. I mean, there's several out there that do some different things, different online rooms, but I think Google's ahead of them as far as the technology they're using. Anyway. The only other one I'll talk about, the only other little side app we have here. Make sure I'm reading hers at 1 second. We can see him, but he couldn't see us. Yeah, yeah, that's right. With this, and depending where you're at, the video still can have some issues here. If you're really bad internet connection for somebody, you may not have as good of a video connection as you would. It'll slow the video down a little bit, but anyway, it's I think it's much better than Skype as far as the video. So the other piece is called the Hangout Toolbox. It's one of the other little apps off the left-hand side. So here, I'll actually unscreen share here for a minute. That's this thing on the bottom is using this Hangout Toolbox. So if I'm doing an archive and I want to pretend like I'm a news anchor, I can do that. So you can get your name and your title, and I can modify anything here. It might modify all of that. So using the Hangout Toolbox. So that's kind of a cool piece too. I like it. Anyway, so let's go ahead back to our. I'll screen share again. Oh, the other once you're in here, like notice I don't like the way I look in here. I think the lighting's funky. If I select my camera on the bottom, my own icon on the bottom, it'll actually give me an option to modify a few things, so I can make myself black and white, or so I can change it a little bit.
Are you going to put the hat on like you were saying with the other Google tools and things? What's going to go on here?
I know. Yeah, the Google effects is pretty hardcore. I'm not sure if you want to get that deep, but if you really want to be a pirate, then you can be. Just so you know.
That's
But
hilarious.
so the other cool thing, like if I have someone presenting and you have other people that have a little bit of background noise, if you kind of a rule for the group, if you tell them if you just select the presenter's video at the bottom, their video will stay front and center. So, if you're in a class and one of your classmates is just too pretty to withstand, you can click their video and they'll be there all the whole time, no matter who's talking. So if you click on a certain icon on the bottom, that picture is on top, if that makes sense.
So like in this case right now, if I turn on my video again, I'm not going to come front and center. You're going to be front and center the whole time since you're the moderator, correct?
Well, I'll only be front and center if you've selected me as front and center. So
Okay.
in this situation, although I'm the moderator, this is more of a group environment. So we're all talking together. This is not quite the same.
Okay.
But sorry, I should have went in the other room. I got too much background noise in here, but tell those guys to go away. And something I think they've just changed too. I just noticed when Jennifer typed that she could see you.
Mm-hmm.
I have my chat turned off, but so her message came right above her picture, which was kind of cool. So you could see the message she typed, even though I had my chat not enabled on the side.
Right.
So that's kind of cool. But anyway, so let's pop back over to share my screen one more time. Should I get the right one? There we go. All right. So the other pieces of this, let's go ahead and talk about Google Drive and Google Docs, because I think that's the other cool thing before we run out of time. We've spent a lot of time with Hangouts, but Hangouts is cool, so I like talking about it. So from any Google page, again, I can get to all of these things. So let's just go to Drive initially, and then we'll look at the docs and sheets and slides. So if I open up my Drive, I use it heavily. We use it really a lot over here. So I have all kinds of stuff, my own and different ones that people have shared back and forth with me. So, and a lot of different folders and things. So this is my Google Drive. So over here on the left-hand side, let's kind of get an idea. Wait, that's probably not making it easy for you guys to see. Is that better?
Thank you. Yes.
Okay. So I can click New, and I can create pretty much anything. So one, I can create folders and organize my content, which I'd recommend doing. It's helpful. I can also upload an entire folder or upload files from my desktop, so Word documents or whatever. So this is all part of just the cloud storage. Okay. I can also create my docs, Google Sheets, Google Slides. If I go to the more, Google Forms is really slick. Have you ever used, say, SurveyMonkey or some of those?
Yeah. Do you create it through this?
I can create, Google Forms is something similar to that. Google Forms allows me to create that kind of a survey type thing. It's not SurveyMonkey, but it does a lot of the same stuff, actually, maybe more now. They keep improving that as well. So you can create your own form. Kind of like the forms that we send out for you to sign up for trainings and stuff, those are using Google Forms.
Okay.
Google Drawings, you can actually go in and just do some different doodling, do different drawing with that. I've added a few things to mine. So I have this thing called Floor Planner. This is kind of like a Visio. If you've used Visio, I actually did some design on our office when they remodeled it. So then I drew it all up in Visio, but then this has a lot of those type of options. You can go in and do some floor design and layout for your, like, put the measurements in for your lot and lay out your landscaping. So, I mean, you can just do some kind of cool stuff. I can also build something from a template, kind of like I can with Word. You click from template, you can do some searching and pull up some that'll, and then just work from a template. Again, most of these I've added. These aren't default, so you may not see these on your own. Lucidchart is something they've just added, so it's pretty new, so I'm still getting my bearings exactly what all it does. But it does some stuff with your spreadsheets, so you can do different stuff with spreadsheets. It's kind of cool. Yeah, there's just a bunch. So, and again, there's also more. I could say connect more apps, and I could actually connect different things that I can use inside of here. So they have a lot of third-party stuff that they're tied to. So kind of slick. Pixlr's a good one if you do a lot of photo editing. I like Pixlr. It actually has their own website as well, but you can do some good photo editing with that. Just so you know what that is. So let's go ahead and just say, let's just create a Google Doc. So if I click on Google Doc, I'll just create an empty one. So here's my empty Google Doc. In the past, Google Drive was actually one of the add-ons in my Hangout, and I could share it that way, but they've took that out for some reason. I don't know why. I wish they wouldn't have. But we could still do some kind of live interaction if we wanted to. So I'm gonna just title this delete. So delete me soon. I'll create this document, and I want to share it with you guys so you can see the strength of the online document. So here's my empty document. First, I have all these options on top, kind of maybe not as strong as Microsoft Office, but you can do a lot of different editing with it. Up here under Share, I'm going to go ahead and click on that. A mouse over it tells me it's private right now, and I can see a lock on that, which means this is only mine. But if I click Share, now I could actually just share this individually with both of you if I wanted to, and I could give you edit rights or comment rights or view rights. But I can also click Advanced here, or just click this top Get Shareable Link. If I click Advanced, I like using Advanced because I know exactly what it's doing. Here's my private, where it's private, and then it's only specific people that have access. I'm going to click Change right here. So this is where the .edu piece, one of those areas where this comes into play. So here I could actually turn it on publicly and share this document with the world if I wanted to. And by default, they can only view it. But if I really wanted to, I could say the world can edit this document. I don't know why you'd do that. What kind of story will be written in that? But I could also say anyone with a link because then it's not searchable in Google. Unless I give you the link, you don't have access to it. So this is one method of doing it. And then I could actually say can edit and then share that link with a couple people. And they don't have to log in necessarily. Well, actually, does it make you log in? I think it might make you log in still to edit. But I kind of like here at the university, I actually like this one down here. So anyone at UWG with the link. This means if you do some modifying on this, I can actually go back and look at the tracking and tell who modified what, when, and how. So this other way, it'd just tell me some anonymous person edited the document. I would have no idea who edited and who added things. But here, because it's requiring your UWG login, I'll know who you are. So I'm gonna share it this way. I'm gonna say can edit, and I'm gonna save this. So now I have this new link, and if I'll go ahead and throw this in our chat. So if you click on that link, it'll probably open in another window there. And I can see that Keith has joined. So now I can see, if you look at my window, you can tell that I can see you in here.
Right. So would they use this in a live conversation to facilitate questions?
So you could use this for a lot of things. One, you could use this maybe in a live conversation for questioning, but you could also create a document. Where I've seen it used, for instance, one example of I would say creative use of this. One of our professors they wanted each of their students to go in and build a document that has certain things in them. So she wanted to give them kind of a template, but she wanted to have this in her doc. And then she wanted the rest of the students in the class to be able to view and comment, and the instructor and the one student could edit. So she actually just created a folder and created one document that she wanted and then copied it, made several copies in there. So it took a little bit of setup initially, and then she shared those different documents with the correct students in there and basically gave the rest of them, pretty much gave everybody with a link the right to comment because she's only sharing it with her class. And then the individual student, whoever the document was going to belong to, gave them edit rights. So it worked out pretty slick with her students. So they were able to pop in this Google folder that you can share inside of CourseDen. They could see everybody's documents, go through and read whichever one they like, and they only have edit rights to their own. Is that?
Yeah, it makes sense. No, it actually it helps trying just to think of the practical use of doing this. In this link that you did for anyone with a UWG address can edit it. Is that a default link, or is that something because you're on UWG Online, you guys have added that? Is that something that will come next, or is already?
That's a default method of sharing if you log in. So here I'm actually logged in with my wesca.edu. So when I click share here, and notice the different icon up there. Let me close that for a second. See that little icon up there? It's still, it actually shows people that it's kind of funny. So the icon changes, but let me go to advanced again and change. If you're logged in with your .edu account, you'll have these UWG options. If you're using a regular Gmail, you'll have public, this one, and off.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Makes sense.
Okay. But yeah, I think this is pretty helpful. I've used this quite a bit. Actually, I've used the PowerPoint, this same thing, but using the slides, like type of PowerPoint, to create presentations and stuff with co-workers and with people at different universities across the states. We couldn't necessarily be together to create presentations and things. And it worked pretty well. And I could totally see that being used inside of the class, especially say you have students in a group that are going to do a presentation. It's an online class.
Right.
They can build the presentation using this, so they don't have to email things back and forth. They have access to it all the time. They can log in and look at it. And while they're in here, there's still a piece up on top. It looks like you've stepped out of the document, but if I click show chat, it shows me that you've joined, or then you left. So whoever's in here, it should have you pop back in there, and then we could have a conversation back and forth in here while we're working on the document. So
that I'm trying to see where that's going to show up on I'm in the document right now, the Google Doc. Where's that chat? Do you have to enable something?
Up on the top where it says chat, do you see that right there?
I'm
Look at
sure.
mine for a second.
Okay. Looking,
Look at the Hangout for a minute. So up on the top next to the share comments, and there should be a little kind of a,
Oh, duh. There we go.
and that'll pop up for you. There you go. Yeah, it looks like Jennifer's joined us as well. So there's the, I didn't realize this should actually play an audio notification when new chat messages arrive. So that's by default turned on. That's in the settings of your chat. You can
Mm-hmm.
actually have it play an audio ding or whatever when someone sends a message, so you know that someone's trying to send you a message.
Okay.
So that's just one of the ways you can use this. And again, this is just a document, but you can do a lot with it. I just think there's a lot of stuff you can do with it. As far as editing, if you just click on your navigation bar file, you can just kind of scroll across the top. You can do a lot of stuff as far as the way it looks, as far as different things you can insert, images, links, drawings, whatever. So,
And to track the changes, then you said that you could tell it since you're the moderator. Will that show up on
actually,
your end of things?
yep, anybody who has edit rights can actually track the changes of this document. So go ahead and type a few things. So Jennifer, you'd like to throw a couple words in there. I just pushed her down. That's interesting. Oh, truly. So once you have some information in there, up on File, if I click File, I can click See Revision History.
Okay.
And then off to the side, it gives me kind of a basic. And I can actually come below and say Show More Detailed Revisions. But then if I click through there, it'll show me everything everybody's typed.
Okay, that's helpful. Good.
Yeah. And if I show more detailed, again, just a few minutes of typing, so there's not a lot of information in here, but so it shows everything laid out.
Right.
So, pretty slick. And then I could actually go back to that revision if I wanted to. If I click on an older revision, it gives me the option to restore
Huh.
that revision.
And anyone with editing rights has that ability to do that.
They do.
Okay.
Like you should be able to do that with here. I'd imagine in that document you should see that as well, correct? You can certainly see the revision. I believe you can actually restore the revision.
I think I did.
Yeah.
Oops.
It's all good. So again, I can still go back and look. I mean, it's all saved. So even right there, it shows that today you did whatever. So I could go back and say, well, I like this revision better. All right.
Right.
So I could come back and restore the older one. And some of these, I believe some of these are actually settings in the sharing. And click share again, I believe. I'm going to say advanced. So from the advanced sharing option, notice on the bottom, actually this isn't the revision, but this is important. So it says editors will be allowed to add people and change the permissions. If I click change that, I can actually say only the owner can change the permissions. Editors can't add or remove people, they can't change the visibility of the item. So I can modify that, but by default, editors are allowed to do those other things.
Okay.
So there are some settings you can change, so you can have a little bit more control if you'd like to. So that's the Google Doc part of it. So again, from Drive, if I actually just bounce over one I already have made. So this is a slide or PowerPoint type presentation. Well, let me just create a new one. This is just one I was playing with earlier. Let me go ahead and create a new one. So there's some cool reasons to use Google Slides inside of your online class. So and documents, frankly. Actually, before I actually create this, let me go back to our old one. Here's my Google Doc. The other benefit of using this in a classroom is if I share this with my class as a link just to view, they don't have to download the Word document to see it.
Mm.
So they don't need any extra hardware. It's a web page basically. Okay. So again, just from sharing, if I say, well, anybody, right now I'm saying anybody can edit it. So I probably wouldn't really do that in real life unless I created some document in my class that I want them all to just go in and edit. That's fine. But I could come back and just say anybody can view this.
Right.
But if I was going to do the view, I would probably just say anybody that's saving this thing. I'd actually say anyone with the link. I wouldn't make them log in Because if I'm just giving them view rights, there's no reason to make them log in because it's not tracking anything anyway, and it just causes more grief.
Right.
So for view, I would just say unmute the link and then save that. And then I take this link and add it to my class instead of trying to upload a Word document. So a couple benefits to that. One, they don't have to download it, they can just see it.
Mm-hmm.
Two, if you want to use the same document in multiple classes, you can just use the same link. The other benefit is if you notice some kind of thing you want to change, God forbid you made a typo, you can actually just go in and tweak it, and it automatically changes in your class or classes if you're using it multiple. You don't have to re-upload it or resave as a PDF or whatever, however you put it in your class.
Okay.
So there's some benefits, I think, to using this method inside your classroom.
Mm-hmm.
PowerPoints are the same way. So when I first create a PowerPoint, first it gives me an option to pick a theme, which I'll snag one. Say OK. And then I can just add a PowerPoint just like I normally would. So one of the things that, well, with the latest PowerPoint, you can do a lot of stuff, frankly. So I kind of like the latest Microsoft if I'm just building a PowerPoint. But the big benefit again with this is the ability to share it on an online environment without making them download it. So you can do some cool sharing with that.
Right. And two things. As Jennifer asked, can you do a voiceover
Thank you
on
for
these?
watching that. I keep missing her. I think I'm playing. So you can't do a voiceover with this yet. I wouldn't be surprised if they'll add that, but right now I cannot do a voiceover on this.
Can you import existing PowerPoints into this format? Will it import and modify to? Okay, so any existing one I have, I can.
Exactly.
Oh, that's helpful.
So to do that, I'd go back to my drive. So in my drive itself, one, I could actually just drag, if I have a PowerPoint on my desktop or wherever on my computer, I could actually just drag it over. Let me show you. If you're looking at my screen, I'll show you what it looks like. So this is a Word doc. If I pull it over, you'll see this incoming. So this is actually a Word document. I'm not going to drop it off here because I don't really want to bring it in, but I could bring it over and it'll import it. So by default, it's going to just bring it over to store it there. It's not going to convert it to Google format by default, unless I change my default, which I normally do in mine because I like it to do that. So up on the settings in Drive, if I click the little gear icon here just below my picture, click Settings, then I'm going to say Convert Uploaded Files to Google Docs Editor Format. So that would be Word, PowerPoint, Slides, and spreadsheet type thing.
Okay.
So you can do that by default, and that works pretty well. So I'm going to say Done. So now if I pulled something over, it would actually convert it. So most of these that I brought over, let me see if I have more than some that are actually not converted. Here you go. So here's one. This syllabus is actually still a Word file. So right now Google Drive is just using it to store this. This little icon here, was a Word file probably, but it was converted to a Google Doc format. So now I can actually edit it. If I click on this Word file, it'll open it up and I can read it, but I can't edit it. One thing they have, if you use an iPad, I've noticed this recently. If I use the iPad app, they actually have a converter. Well, not a converter, but some kind of, I don't know exactly what they did, but I can actually edit the Word docs on my iPad without converting them. Like if I just upload a Word document to my Google Drive and open my iPad and go look at it, it allows me to edit that Word doc and saves it back as a Word doc.
Right.
But they don't have that feature on the web page yet. So kind of slick. And also, once I've converted a file, if I want that as a Word doc for some reason, I need to have it as a Word doc. I'll go back to ours we're playing with here. If I click File, I can say Download As, and then I can download it as several different formats.
Oh, okay, that's good. That's good to know.
So I can take it back and forth.
Right.
So I think that's pretty slick. So again, with this presentation, so it's a little bit more of this, and we'll get off of this because we're about out of our time. You guys can leave whenever you want. Tell me to shut up whenever you like me to. There's a lot of stuff with this. So again, up on the top, so once I create this, I can just click New Slides, and I can create my slide. Again, I could just pull one over, and it'll convert it automatically, like you said. And then I can come in and edit that slide that I've converted. Once I'm done with this, the same kind of options. I could just say share. I'll have to title. I have to give it a name first. I'll go ahead and call this. Put a name, and then I can share it. So I'm going to say advanced again because I just like that option. And I want this to be anyone with the link can view, and I'll save. So I could take this link right here, and I could share that with my class. Okay, the downside kind to that is they will see it just like this, with the PowerPoints on the side. They won't have access to edit it. Their menu bar will be different. They'll actually say read only up here, but they don't see it as a presentation. So one thing I've just recently found that I can do, notice across the top here I have a present, and then I have this drop down arrow. So if I was using this just in my own class to present in front of a live audience, I could just click present, and it opens this up in a full screen window just like Microsoft Office does, and allows me to go through it just like a PowerPoint. But I can also say present in a new window. Let me not close this, but let me make that a little smaller here. And then I'll come over and reshare my window with you so you can see the correct one. I don't have anything on this slide. It's empty, so you just got a weird picture there. But so here's the new window share of that. Okay, so that's the difference. You'd actually see it like a presentation in presentation mode.
Oh, I see.
Does that
So
make
that's
sense?
why your screen has been taken over by this now. Okay.
Right. So if I was to full screen, it just takes over.
Right.
But what I can do, go back to my other presentation. If I make that so you can see it better. If I wanted to say present a new window, I could actually let it open a new window and just grab that URL that it's on the top of the new window and share that in my class. So the only trick to sharing any of the Google stuff in your class, but especially this way, is you need to make sure you select it so it opens in a new window. It doesn't open inside. It needs to open external to Courseden.
Right.
So you have to click the checkbox that says open in new window. Does that make sense? That lose anybody with that one? Okay. Yeah, that's correct, Jennifer. If you bring a PowerPoint that has a voiceover, it will not convert it. It'll lose the voiceover. You'll see the little speaker icon, but it won't bring over the audio. But I can show you a better way to do that. Frankly, that I wouldn't necessarily do that. If I was going to do a narrated PowerPoint, I would actually just use Microsoft Office, narrate it, save it as a video, and then upload it to YouTube. Because the latest PowerPoint works so much better. You don't have to worry about it. Yeah, I don't think I'd do that. Hope that answered that question. I keep missing the text over there because I've got too many windows open. All right, so that's your basic PowerPoint. Any questions on the PowerPoint?
Nope.
All right, how about you, Jennifer? Besides the ones you've asked already. Hopefully I've answered all those questions already. Okay, perfect. All right. Again, I won't get into a lot of your options, but under Drive, there are some other things that you can create, which we kind of talked about. Think if I'm missing anything with Drive. Oh, the other piece that you may want, and like I've done on my machine, is actually you can install Drive. If I click the settings icon, it says download Drive. So I can actually install Drive on my computer locally, which means that I have a folder on my computer called Google Drive. And I use it just like I would any folder on my computer, except anything in that folder syncs back and forth with Google Cloud.
Okay, so it's live sync. Okay.
Yes, it's a live sync. If I change something on my computer, I open it up. So if I'll actually share a different screen with you. So you can open one up here, and I'll share that with you. So this is just a folder on my desktop. I have Google Drive right here on the side. So once I install it, I get Google Drive. And then I'll have all my stuff that's in Google Drive in the cloud. I have it here too. So even the icons, notice these little icons down here, that's actually a Google Doc, and it says .gdoc is the extension.
Mm-hmm.
But if I double click this to edit it, it'll just open up Chrome and let me edit it. No problem. Although it's really in the cloud, I can double click that and and it'll allow me to edit it.
Okay. And in term for a filing question,
Uh-huh.
there's only one Google Drive, so you don't create different drives for different classes.
That's
And then
correct.
that means you'll create individual folders for the specific group to share that with that specific group. How many folders can you do, just like on a regular Windows drive? Can you do as many subfolders?
As far as I know, I don't know of a limit. You can do as many as you want. Yeah.
Okay, so if you wanted to, within a class, have several folders, you can do that. It's not just one and that's it, and that's
That's
why you have hundreds of entries on your main screen.
that's correct.
Okay,
Yeah, you could certainly put as many as you made you happy.
okay.
Let me share that one more time. So, like I've done that in here. Let me pull up some of my folders, get to the top. I don't think Rita will mind. I think she might have one of hers. I was working. This might not be. This might just be videos. Um, Let's see if I have one that is like that. I had some that we were using just for that. I was going to see if I could share that with you, but I may not. I may have got rid of them because they were just actually there's one here. So this is for a class. So I'm not going to get into any of these folders, but you can actually create different folders in here. You could create this one folder for this class that this happens to be called non-Western art.
Mm-hmm.
You can create a folder, and then the one this is kind of what I was mentioning earlier. She's created these individual documents for each one of her students, and you'll notice she's the owner of all these. But certain they're sharing, they're all shared, and the individual like this person Melissa, she has access to edit it. Everybody else in the class has access to view it. So the way they're shared, but that's how she's using that, and it seems to work pretty well for her.
That's right. And you can specify then that one or two students can have editing rights, the rest can only view. You just have to put their individual names in.
That's right.
Forward. Okay.
That's exactly right. So when she clicks on share up here, or I click on share because I actually have access to this, and if I go down to, well, never mind, I don't have access to tweak that. So let me go into my own. She just gave me access to look at it. So let me just go into another folder here. So if I click on, let me back up. I'm going to select this folder. So this is the entire folder.
Mm-hmm.
So this folder is actually just from different podcasts and different people on campus that I've shared their podcasts with them from backups. If I click on share up here, I could actually share this entire folder.
Wow. Okay.
Okay, and there's really a lot of strength in that. So if you share a whole folder, I'll go and just click advanced because I like it. Then I can share the folder again, very similar as I could other things. So if I give them edit rights, they can add their own thing to the folder. So here in our department, we do some shared folders where we can everybody has access to upload things to that folder. So they're shared with everybody. Everybody has edit rights to the folder. We can add our own file to it.
So like the Dropbox, it will sync every time you turn your computer on or whatever the case might be. It will always sync to the newest updated version.
That's correct.
Okay.
So that can be a gotcha kind of, and I'll tell you why. So because we have unlimited space, okay, I mean, look at this. It says 61 gig used right here. I don't want all that on my computer locally because a lot of the stuff, I don't need it. I don't need it here. I'm just using it for storage. So when you first install Google Drive, I'll actually share my entire screen just for a minute so I can show you what I mean by that because it won't make sense probably. And I'll minimize this so it doesn't totally lose you. Okay, so on the very bottom down here, when Google Drive is running, on the bottom right, I have a little icon for Google Drive. So I'm actually going to right click on that, and it shows me, it looks like some stuff is actually syncing right now. So it's showing me it's in the process because some stuff I've removed and got rid of some stuff, so it's fine. So I'm going to come right up here and click this 3 arrows. I'm going to click Preferences. And when I first install this, I have these options too. So under Preferences, I can actually pick which folders. No, by default, it's right here, everything in my drive. It syncs everything by default. I don't like that default because I have too much stuff in my drive.
Mm-hmm.
And some of the stuff over there I just use for storage. I don't want it locally. I only want it there. So I can say sync only these folders, and I can pick which ones I want to sync.
Okay.
some of these I don't really. Some of these I'm just go ahead and deselect them right now because I didn't realize some of these they must have. I haven't looked at it lately, so I'll just get rid of some of these because I don't need them on here. And then once I deselect these ones locally, it'll actually give me a kind of not a warning, but it'll tell you these will be removed from your local computer. So once I click apply, I get this some folders will be removed from this computer. So they're still in the cloud. They're always available on drive google.com, but they're not here. Okay, that's fine. That's the point of me removing them here. I don't want them local. So I'll do.
So it actually removes them. It just doesn't stop at that point from syncing. It actually will physically remove.
That's right. It'll remove them off this computer. It still stays in the drive on the
Right.
cloud, and I can always go back and sync them again.
Okay. It's good to know, though, in case you weren't planning on that and then you suddenly can't find it. Just
yeah.
moment.
Like,
right.
Yeah. And I mean, you could also go into that same thing and disconnect. And now it's saying just deleting these because I've just done that's on purpose. I could also come in here and go to the preferences and go to account, and I could actually disconnect my account, which means that will actually leave everything on my computer, but it's no longer associated to the cloud.
Right.
Okay. See, this is where, because of this .edu, notice this is 10 terabyte right here. Because they tell us you have unlimited space, but a 10 terabytes quite a bit. And I'm only using 0.06. I'm using hardly anything. And I think
you should send an email to them. You want 100 terabytes.
Yeah, I need a little more. I'd like to start storing a bunch of stolen movies I got from the internet. So that's what that does. Let me find my Hangout again. I'll unshare the entire screen so you don't put us into a vortex. I feel like I want to dive into that. If you share yourself looking at yourself, it's too much. But anyway, hope that answers some questions. I didn't create too many. I think I've completely went over my time. So any other thoughts, process, or questions, good jokes, anything?
Jennifer, I'm sorry you know how I just can't shut up. And so one question I just have real quick, well, it's not real quick for me, but you know what I'm talking about. I'm just trying to figure out then, since there's a lot of overlap between Courseden and Google, what should be my primary focus? What I don't want to have happen is to become fragmented to where I'm in a bunch of different places, and you think of just other online web resources and so forth. Because one of the complaints some of my students have had when I'd asked them about their experience in other online classes, for instance, is they're required to go all over the place in the internet. There's Google, there's Courseden, then there's like VoiceThread. I mean, there's just a whole bunch of different places they're going to, and it becomes overwhelming for them at times. So I'm just trying to figure out what is the most efficient and organized way to approach this. When do I use certain functions? What are better than others? Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does make sense, and that's a good question. So the way I see it is I would, if I was going to use Google Docs, which I do and I would in my class, is I would actually link all those inside of Courseden. I mean, you can make Courseden kind of the mothership as far as where all your links are, kind of like using any external web page. If it appears that it's inside of Courseden, they don't have to go somewhere else to find it. It's part of their class. It's part of that module. They click the link. It may open in a new window, but it's all right there in Courseden. And again, because the big benefit of Google, they don't have to log in with some separate username and password. It's the same username and password they use for Courseden. They don't have to remember anything else. So I think you can use it for quite a bit of that stuff inside of, but I would link it inside of Courseden, and because I think you're exactly right. A lot of them do get that, like, really, we have another thing to use. I don't think Google's quite as bad because they're already logged into their Gmail. If they're logged into their Gmail and they click on one of your links, it's going to open up without having any questions, even if they have to log in. So most of the time, you don't have those kind of issues with your Google environment, especially if it's linked inside of the course. So,
right. And actually, it is. I'm going to put myself, since you're putting yourself on, I will, as we finish up, put the video on as well. But no, that's actually helpful. That this is in some ways an additional. It's a support rather than a standalone. And I've heard some people kind of, well, we now have these apps and kids have all these iDevices, so we don't need Courseden anymore, and I'm still not comfortable with that because there's a lot of protected stuff within Courseden and gives them a focal point with it all.
I agree with that.
Now, based on what I've seen with what you're saying here, is I think there's a lot of supplementary things I could use with Google that I hadn't done by linking it within CourseDen. That seems to be the
Yeah,
best way of doing it.
that's how I would use it. Is I would use those inside of CourseDen. Use these other apps, but link them inside CourseDen. It's like I did a class or a training session once about social media because I think it has its place, but I think it's overused oftentimes as far as
Mm-hmm.
in online learning. For a little while, Facebook, people were teaching their class with Facebook. To me, that's just creepy. It means you're putting your foot in the bedroom, kind of, and
Right.
I just don't like it. But I think if you take some of those things and you do them correctly, and they're like a one-way street, you're doing them for sharing. You're not, especially with that kind of stuff. With Google Docs, it's a little different. You can actually have some two-way communication with that, but you're putting them inside your class. There needs to be
Mm-hmm.
one focus point. They can all come to one place, go from there, and I think it works better with course
Right.
and I hear the same things. A lot of people say, "Well, why don't we just use this?" Or, well, it doesn't have everything just yet. I'm
Right.
a big fan of Google, and I push it all the time. But I still wonder sometimes if they're taking over the world. But
They are.
so they probably are. But if all your assessments, all your other student data, that kind of stuff needs to be inside a course then. And for tracking purposes later, if you have
Right.
instructors or students come back and say, "I don't agree with my grade," you have to have some way to track it. With Google, you actually do, because we're .edu, we're apps for edu. You have some differences there, especially if you're building these files and sharing them that way. You still have access to these files too, so you could still have grade appeal type stuff there. So that's the other thing that you kind of want to keep in mind if you're using it heavy, is keep in mind how you're sharing things, so that if they come back and have some issue for grade appeal, or if you need some communication pieces, that it's not so over the top that you don't have any piece that you can use to say, no, we did have this communication.
Right. Well, thanks for taking the time. Now that I know I can get you live video all the time, now you're really in trouble. I'm just warning you right now.
Nice. Yeah, man. Here. Next time, I don't know why my thing's not shown as black and white. Is it shown as black and white, DL?
No, no, it's color. What about sepia? I mean, I want to see what kind of effects we have here. I like the hat that you had, the pirate hat earlier. So,
I'm kind of bummed that my black and white thing's not working. I don't know why it's not. Usually it does, but it tells me it's black and white, but it's not doing it. I don't know why it's not working. Oh well. You're very welcome, Jennifer. Thank you.
agreed, Jennifer. Thanks for everything, David. I appreciate the time.
Anytime, my friend. Anytime. So until next time, I'll go ahead and stop this broadcast. And as always, we're here to help.